Hello and welcome back to the channel. So here we have the tanks, the second end of year video, and just to let you know, I will have the third video that will come up between Christmas and New Year, but the next time to expect a model video will be the 3rd of January. I'm taking a couple of weeks off over the Christmas and New Year period. I'm afraid I've got a few things to do and I'm going to be away, so I won't be able to make models during that period, but Friday the 3rd of January will be the next model video to expect. But until then, hopefully we can keep you entertained with the end of year reports, as it were. So as you can see, there are already quite a few more tanks than there were the aircraft. So let's crack on. First of all, we've got the Guangzhou Panzer IV. Now, I have to say, I thought this was pretty good. It had a fair bit of detail, absolutely solid as a rock. I don't know what it is about Guangzhou, but their turrets are second to none, where some of the other manufacturers, when they design the turret, they can be really finicky and fragile, but I've yet to find one on a Guangzhou tank that is anything less than rock solid. Now, the Panzer IV came out at £17.57, which for a sort of medium level tank I thought was a fair price, to be honest with you. So that one we will start off in really good. Now, as you can appreciate, a lot of this list really is going to be dominated by Slubin and Guangzhou, but the others have, other manufacturers do have presence here. So this is our first entry by Slubin, one of the earlier models I did, a 2-in-1. So you have the King Tiger, the Tiger 2, or you can have the Jagdpanther. Now, this model was built with its own camo pattern, which I wouldn't say was great. It did capture the lines on particularly the Tiger 2 really nicely. However, I just have a bit of a problem with 2-in-1 models. I think that if you want a Tiger 2, get a Tiger 2. If you want a Jagdtiger, get a Jagdtiger. The 2-in-1s, they make too many compromises for my liking in the level of detail and just the way that the model is done, really. It's a nice idea, but I don't think it really particularly works in practice. Now, this one came in at $23.32, which, to be fair, is actually quite a good price, particularly as you're getting two models. But for me, it just comes really under okay. Now, this is the T14 Armata by 12 Go. This was a good tank. I can't lie, there was a lot of detail in here. The only thing that keeps it really off at the top tier was the decals. They were cheap and nasty, and I actually wish I'd never put them on the tank, I'll be honest, because it did ruin it a little bit. But it was a good price. It was £24 and 2 pence, something like that. It was £24 and 4 pence. I mean, that's a good price. I mean, this is a 2,000 piece tank. It's pretty big. It's well over 35 centimetres long. It's a hefty old beast. If anything, it's really got to go in really good. Had it not been for the decals, it would have gone in top tier. In fact, the decals or the stickers from just about any other company would have put this in top tier. So, first of the pocket money tanks, the Little Tiger by Guangzhou. Well, these little tanks, they don't have as much detail as the bigger tanks. There just isn't the real estate for them. But what they do offer is hopefully a good model at a cheap price. And I have to say, it delivered. I've got no problems with this in the slightest. And this came in at £6 and 12 pence. It's really difficult to argue with on that. So I think this really has to go top tier. Now the Kazi M1A2 Abrams. This is the second tank that I did, and this lured me into that way of thinking that Kazi were a really good manufacturer. Well, they've let me down a few times since then, unfortunately. But this is a good model. This wasn't the cheapest by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I think this is quite possibly the most expensive model that I've bought. £45.83. Is it worth it? I don't think it is, but it is a good model. There's no getting away from that. So I can't really put it top tier. I think it is it is very overpriced for what it is, considering you can get, I mean, just about everybody in these dog manufacturers and Abrams, and you can certainly pick up these for around half the price that I paid for it. I'm going to be generous, and I'm going to put it in really good. Now, Slubin, the Type 99A. Oh, I had problems with this one. This was the one that I was missing loads and loads of pieces really early on in the build, and had to wait about 2 months for Slubin to send me the missing bits. But then, once I made it, I loved the tank. It was different. This is the collector's version of the 99A, which comes in the gunmetal grey with the gunmetal grey stand and minifigure with the Chinese star coming up the side. I mean, very much the sort of thing that you would expect to see on a desk of an executive somewhere in a steel mill or something of that nature. If it hadn't been for the bits missing, I think this was really, really good tank. I liked it a lot, but I had to wait 2 months to finish it off. And that really, really annoyed me. It really tested my patience. So I may have been unlucky there. As with all the ones that I was missing pieces with, I mean, sometimes the quality control just doesn't pick these things up. But I'm afraid, how much was this, by the way? That might make a difference. $33.72. It's on the pricier side, probably because it was limited edition. I'm afraid it's going to have to go just in okay. Right, Panlos, Challenger 2. First of the entries from Panlos. This was a good tank. Funnily enough, a couple of people mentioned in comments after I'd done this that they found that the side skirts were quite fragile. Not an issue that I encountered, I have to say. This just was a good all-round tank. Not the cheapest, comes in at $38.19, so on the more expensive side. But I would argue that this is possibly the best tank I've done this year. It's very detailed, it's very good. It's the building process was nice and relaxing. There wasn't any real stress on it. Everything was there. So although it is slightly on the expensive side, I am going to put this top tier. Right, the T80 by Slubin. Oh, this was... I think I did this after the Abrams. I can't remember now off the top of my head. This was very much a model of two halves. The chassis, the bodywork was absolutely fine. I remember that. No problems with it whatsoever. It is when you got to the turret. Oh, that turret. It was so fiddly and finicky. And you'd get the reactive sort of plates that they are doing onto the turret, and then you go to put the next one on, and you'd ping off the one that you just put on there, and it was a pain in the backside, that turret. And then once I've got it all on, the barrel is threaded through a really long four cross piece type thing, and it ended up splitting it was so tight. It split the brick, one of the bricks on the barrel itself. So I'd hunt around for spares, and I also seem to remember, I'm sure there was a few bits missing on it. It was not the greatest experience, I have to say, and did put me off Slubin for a little while. This came in at £20.10, which I think if I hadn't had the issues that I did with it, it would have been a really good model for that price. But I did have a lot of problems. Although you could build, if I remember rightly, you could build one of 3 T80s. They were very similar. There wasn't a great deal of difference from what I remember between them. But again, it's a popular model by manufacturers, so I think you can do better than this. So this is going to go into a couple of issues. For me, it's poor. I think it's the construction of the turret for me that really pushes it down into poor. It could have been so much better. Now, we're back to Panlos again for the Centurion. This was the first remote control model I did this year, and I have to say, I loved it. It was a lot of fun to do. Really was. It's absolutely rock solid, partly because it's built on more of a Technic basis, which makes it really, really stable. It was just a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to mess around. The only thing that stops this going top tier really is the dimensions. It needed to be squished a bit. If you could have stood on it and just pushed it down and made it slightly wider, it would have been lovely. But as it was just out of all proportions. So that also comes in at £29 as well. I mean, that's really good for a good quality model tank, let alone a radio control one. So that's going in at really good. Now, the Su-85 by Slubin, what can I say? It's a smaller, obviously TD rather than tank, but it offers you everything. It's got a fair bit of detail. It's accurate on its proportions. It was easy to build. Everything was there. Always nice. And it was only £8. Happy days. That's going in at really good. The Hetzer by UU Bricks. Now, there was some a few comments about this possibly being a stolen mock. Now, I've done a little bit of investigation, only with Rebrickable, to be fair, and I can't really agree with that. There's nothing there that looks like this enough that, you know, somebody has taken a mock, adapted it ever so slightly, and then put it out into the wild to sell. This one, yeah, I can't see it on this particular one. I know it does happen, but yeah, I didn't think the big problem with this one, and first of all, I want to say that they've done an excellent, whoever built this has done an excellent job, because they've solved the angled armor issue that you get on a lot of these models, where, you know, to get them looking like the actual source material, you have to angle the bricks, and that can make those bricks very, very fragile, especially if they're on hinges and you've got to clip them in. It can all go horribly wrong, as we will find out in some models later on. But they did it in such a way that it was very solid, and it was reasonably accurate. I mean, it's a similar sort of size to the little Pocket Tiger and the Su-85, and then when we come to them, the KVs. I thought it was a really good little tank. The one and only problem I have with this Hetzer is the price. It was £20.15. Well, bearing in mind that Tiger, the same sort of size, was £6. Where is it? The Su-85 was only £8. The KVs were under £10. I find it really difficult to justify that sort of price. I think it's way over the top. Bear in mind that you couldn't, well, with the KVs, for instance, you could get 3 of those for the same price as this, which just doesn't stand up to me. So, certainly not going in the top 2. Ooh, a couple of issues. Really only has one issue. It's going to go in okay. Not sure about that one, I have to say, whether that's an okay or whether it's a couple of issues. Perhaps it should have been in the line before that, or between the two. Never mind. Right, Slubin, M5 Stuart. It's another little tank. It's not in the same sort of little range as the ones we've just been talking about, the Tiger and the KVs. This is just a small tank. It's a smallish model. It's relatively well detailed. For what it is, it's pretty good. I can't really complain about it. Again, this one comes in at £8. Is it the best in the world? No, not by any shadow of the imagination. But it's okay. You know, particularly, I think, if you gave that to a child or slightly older child, they'd be really chuffed with it. Serious collector, possibly not, but it's okay. It's a nice way to spend a couple of hours. Right, the Kazi Jagdpanther. Oh dear God, where do we start? Well, if I remember rightly, the chassis wasn't too bad, and the wheels and the track fitted each other nicely, which sometimes is a bit of an issue, but that's where it finishes, unfortunately. The camo pattern was horrible on this thing. The proportions were awful. It barely looked like a Jagdpanther. It was fragile to the point of insanity trying to put it together. It was, I think, possibly it was one of only 2 tanks that I actually ended up giving up. That's how bad it was. So when you saw it in the review, in the pictures and the video and all that sort of thing, the top, the sides and the back were only actually lent against each other, because the way the hinges were done, and you were supposed to clip them in at the top, they were so thin that the clipping in process just made everything crumble. And it wasn't just the bit that you were trying to put in. You would say the side, you would put it on the hinge, you'd bring it up, you'd go to clip it in, and it would explode. The roof would explode, the back would explode. You'd knock off some of the bits off of the front armour. It was just so badly constructed. I was just seriously unimpressed with this. It was one of the few tanks that came very close to going across the room and into the wall. So I would absolutely, and even at £26 something, I think this cost £26. Yeah, it's very definite. Do not buy this thing. It's just junk. On to a happier tone, the KVs. Now these are two separate tanks, but I put them together because I didn't really feel that one tank would fill a video. So, but the two tanks did, and these are the cutest tanks ever. As I said earlier, they were £7 each. They are really accurate for their size, and these are small tanks. These are only 15 centimetres long, the same as the Tiger and the Su-85 and the Stuart. Around about 15 centimetres long and about 6 or 7 wide. But they're really good. Don't make the mistake of thinking that these are just kids' toys. These were good enough. I feel that even a collector would be really actually quite happy with these, and especially at that sort of price. They were just really good. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put them. I'm going to have to put them top tier. I just thought they were excellent. What I didn't think was excellent was the IS-2 and the ISU 122 from Slubin. The IS-2 is definitely the better one of the two models, but again, this suffers from similar sort of issues that the Tigers did earlier. Rather than two models, go for one model. If you want the IS-2, go for an IS-2. If you want a 122, go for a 122. There was lots of bits missing from this. I really had to go scrounging around in my spares box to even attempt to get these finished. But definitely the tank is better than the tank destroyer on this, but they're just not very good at all. Came in at $23.32, same price as the 2-in-1 for the Tigers. But for me, the Tigers was a slightly better combination. Both the King Tiger and the Jagdtiger were reasonable models. Didn't think much of the ISU 122 at all, and as I say, we were missing lots of bits in this, so I'm afraid that's a definite pull for me. Now, the M60, who did the M60? Oh, another one by Panlos. Fab, really, really good. This one really actually caught me by surprise, because it had actually, I think it had been sat in the drawer of models to do for a long, long time, for a good 6-7 months before I actually got around to doing this. And I was actually shocked how good this thing was. Again, not perfect. There would be potentially a couple of very small tweaks that you could do on this, but it was very well detailed. I really liked the little extra mine clearing sort of roller tractor thing that you put at the front of it. It's an imposing model. It's a good old size. Really, £32.09. I think that's about right for the price. Say, not entirely perfect, but very good indeed. So we're going to go up there. The Stug by Slubin. Again, another one actually that had been sat around for a long, long time. When did I do this? November, and I think I bought this in April. I'm not entirely sure why it was sat around. There just always seemed to be something else to do. So it was one of those I'll keep for a rainy day. And I think it was one of the first models I did on streaming. And I was actually really surprised at this. I wasn't expecting it to be a particularly good model, but it's one of those that's better than the photographs. It's not bad at all. Not perfect, and I wasn't particularly keen on the sort of the fake camouflage leaves and branches that they put on the side on the photographs, but actually when you make the model in real life, it's really not too bad at all. So that one also came in, if I remember rightly, quite cheap. Yeah, that's £10. So whilst the size of it is not in the not in the mini tank sizes like the KVs, that Tiger Bagwanjan, it's in that price bracket, in that sort of pocket money range. So for that reason, I'm going to go up there. And it was solid as well, which is something that I wasn't anticipating at the time. Right, T54. Now, when I built, what did I buy? Oh, is it the T80? You could build several different versions of that. With this T54, you can build several different versions of this. So you can build a T54, a T55, and a T54-55, and even a T62, if I remember rightly. This is, I mean, basically, if you haven't got a lot of money and you want a really good small tank, this is the one to buy. This was fab. I hadn't had a great deal of joy, I think, in the run-up to this with some of the Slubin models, and I thought it might have been even the week or two after I'd done the ISU, I think it was. And yeah, I was not predisposed kindly to Slubin. So to get this model, which was just excellent, really, really excellent, the way they've done the turret is how one of those domed Soviet Cold War era turrets should be done. Really, really good. I can't speak highly enough of this, to be honest with you. And this came in pretty good as well on the price, £11, which, yeah, again, it's pocket money price, but not for a pocket money tank. That's a really good tank. So that is going up on the top tier. Oh God, I've got to try and pronounce this now, haven't I? Yeah, no, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. The new, oh God, right, this interwar German tank by Wange. I'm not going to lie, I thought this was a made-up tank. You see it sometimes, particularly on some of the Chinese model websites. They'll do made-up battleships and planes and all that sort of things. And I actually honestly thought this was a made-up tank. But it's not. It is definitely real. And while the actual tank may have been a big steaming pile of rubbish, the model is actually pretty good. Yeah, to do a German multi-turreted tank was just odd. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, I sort of did the whole thing rather bemusedly. But it was a good build. Although I do seem to remember that this did suffer on the track front. One of those, and there was only a few this year, one of those that had, when you do the tracks, they were either too loose, and then you take out one link, and then they were too tight. You almost wanted a half link in between to make it absolutely fine. So I think this did suffer with that. But I'll give them a due. What was really nice about this was not just the tank itself, but the fact that a manufacturer has gone out their way to do a really obscure vehicle. It was really good, nice to see, because everyone does the Tigers, the Panthers, the T34s, the M4s, Abrams, and all that sort of stuff. So to see something which, as I say, was a genuine tank. There was only 5 of them made. 3 of them went into battle. 2 of them broke down before they got there, and 1 of them got shot up really badly. And then they were promptly scrapped. But to do it, fantastic. So good on your Wange. I've got to say that. And this was how much? This was 1661. I would say it's just ever so slightly over what I would be comfortable with, but it's not too bad. We're going to put that in okay. Right. Guangzhou Panther. First model I did. First model I had high hopes for, and first model that kicked the legs out from under me and just shot me right down. The Guangzhou models in general, they do tend to prioritise accuracy. So that was the reason I was very excited about this one. But unfortunately, we had missing pieces, we had warped pieces, we had discoloured pieces, we had not the greatest of instruction manuals. It did leave quite a sour taste in my mouth for quite a while, I'm not going to lie, and did put me off of Guangzhou for quite some time. Now this came in at 2814, which is on the more expensive side, and say that even helped with the kick in the teeth. But even though I did just about manage to finish it with scrounging around for spares, you could see what a good model it could have been. And funny enough, this was won by one of our subscribers in the competition, and he broke it down and sent it to him, and he's obviously got some better spares or more accurate spares, because he turned it into a fantastic model. So I would hope that if you went and got this, that I was the unlucky one and you got everything in it, because Guanzhong do make some very, very good models if everything's there. You certainly want it to be as good as it shows on the packaging and the advertising, because that is the more expensive side of things. But because I had all the issues with it, gotta put it in there, really. Right, the S-Tank by Slubin. I love S-Tanks. They're so much fun. And I wondered how they were going to cope with the long, low, slanted armour at the front, but it was done very, very well indeed. I got no complaints there. In fact, it was a pretty good model all round. This came out in 2311, slightly overpriced. This has been more along the lines of, say, the Panzer IV at about sort of £16-17. I think that would have been where that should be. But for rarity's sake, fair enough. So, yeah, I was very happy with this. It's a pretty solid tank. We are going to put that in. Okay, right. Well, this is a Jagdpanther, so you know what that means. It's a steaming pile of crud. This is by Leyi, who, funnily enough, are the owners of 12Go, who made the T14 Armata. This was shocking. Now, this was a very, very cheap £9.71, so certainly in that pocket money range, but for the love of God, do not let anybody buy this. This was the only tank here. There was nothing missing. That had obviously never been test built after they designed it, because of the way that the front drive wheels were supposed to be mounted. There is no way on earth that they could hold the tracks. It just wasn't happening at all. If you want to even get close to finishing the model, you will have to get your brain out and you will have to do it yourself and redesign the thing, because it's just shocking. And unfortunately, it didn't really stop there. The sides and the back, again, fragile. They're suffering the similar way that the Kazi Jagdpanther did. But not just that, the proportions are all over the place, all wrong. It's just a bad tank. And actually, of all the tanks, in fact, of all the models that I've done this year, this is head and shoulders above everybody else as the worst tank, even at that price of under £10. So very, very definitely do not buy it. In fact, I think it was the only model that I've done this year where I refused to give the link and the description to buy it on the videos. It was that bad. And finally, we have our last model, which is an M4 Sherman from Guanzhong. Now, this probably redeemed my faith in Guanzhong, because I think this was the first one that I did after I had the fairly poor experience with the Panther. Now, this is a sort of a level below where that Panther is as far as detail and things like that are concerned. But then again, it is cheaper. That came in at £18, so you wouldn't expect it to be quite as detailed as a £28 tank. But this isn't bad. As I say, it's not top tier by any stretch of the imagination. It's a good basic model of this tank. You can get more basic than this. Certainly the Guanzhong do their mini tank models, which I know there's a Sherman. I haven't done it, but I would imagine that it would be okay, but obviously less details than this. But this is all right if you are short on money. If you're wanting to stretch a pocket money budget, then yeah, absolutely fine. This is really good. Accuracy is very good. You got no complaints there. You got a reasonable amount of detail. The price is good. Everything was there. It made a half decent model. So you are going in there. Right, so there we go. That's the tanks and the AFVs done on the tier list. And again, I would have to say, out of the 25 that are here, really, there's only 5 there that I would say that I had real problems with. Everything else was either good or you could make it really, with the slight tweak here and there. As I say, with the Panther, I may just have gotten really unlucky with that, with the warped bits and the bits with slightly different colours and all that type of thing. Again, similar with the IS2 and the 122 on there and the T80. Your experiences may differ, but I think that, like I said, with the aircraft, I think that out of that sort of 25, you've got 5 4 or 5 that I had issues with. All the rest were from acceptable to really, really good, which again shows that these alternative manufacturers, that it's not always the dross that is sometimes in the perception, that there are half decent models out there, and for good prices. But you do need to hunt around. That's one thing that I've certainly shown me this year. Definitely hunt around. If you've got an idea of a particular tank that you want, perhaps by a particular manufacturer even, have a look at 3, 4, 5 different places. The prices do vary wildly on occasions. Some of them I've seen, when I've been looking for a particular tank, I've seen one at £40, and then I thought, that's a bit expensive. So then I've looked around again at another 2 or 3 places, and I found it for £20. I thought, fantastic. And then I've looked at one more place and found it for 11. So it's definitely worth shopping around for these particular models. But overall, most of these are pretty good indeed. And some of these are actually models that are nobody else is really doing, not unless you go to places like Rebrickable. So there we go. That will be nearly it for 2024. I've got these ships and all the rest of the stuff, all the rest of the models that don't fit into the aircraft or the tanks category coming up. That will be out between Christmas and New Year, 27th, and I will see you for that one. So hopefully you've liked this video. If you have, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you next time. You take care, and have a happy Christmas and New Year. Bye-bye.